I'm gonna warm up. Daddle diddle daddle doodle doodle.
Daddle deedle diddle dodle doodle.
You got it better than I did. Welcome to the channel, everybody. I'm so glad that we had that opening with Mom and Dad's update. Tonight, we're going to talk about one of the grand old men of jazz, Clark Terry. He had enjoyed a stellar career as a soloist with the big bands of Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and The Tonight Show, among others. Tonight's album is In Orbit. It is a jazz album by Clark Terry featuring Thelonious Monk, and it had Sam Jones as well as Philly Joe Jones on it. It was the only Riverside album that Thelonious Monk ever appeared on as a sideman, and it was the first album that Clark Terry recorded on the flugelhorn. So with that being said, let's get into our dialogue about Clark Terry's album from 1958 on the Riverside label, In Orbit.
I've been waiting all week. I can't wait anymore. Let's get into this. Let's get down and dirty with CT.
All right. Then how about this? Let's get on some audio. We got a lot to talk about, baby. We got a lot to talk about. So
let's do it. My clip tonight, you can let me go first because you already got it queued up. Song number 6, Argentina. It's not Argentina, it's Argentina. Start me right at 45 seconds and play me a minute of that. So 45 to a minute 45 of song number 6, Argentina. Okay.
come on.
So I focused a lot on Monk there, not on purpose, but we got at the beginning of the clip we got to hear the head, the melody of the tune, played by Clark, which is kind of what I wanted to focus on anyways, and just kind of move into Monk's solo. You know, when we covered Thelonious Monk in the top 100 albums that shook the world, being a first time Monk listener, I kind of became a Monk fan. He's got a very distinct style that he plays in, very distinct banging almost on the keyboard, on the piano, that I kind of I grew to just personally enjoy. So it's not that I didn't want to highlight Clark on my clip, but I wanted to show Clark playing the head there at the beginning of the clip, and then into Thelonious's solo, which happens to be one of my favorite tunes on the album. So it's tough though. You know, I had trouble picking a clip this week in the first place because we literally, and we say it a lot, we could have picked any clip, any section of any one of these songs and been just fine.
We could have, and that's the hard part. I listened to the album several times just to figure out what am I going to pick. And it's tough. One of the I just happened to talk to Dad earlier today as I was driving home, and he said, you know, it is this album, right? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he says, I got to admit, they just left a lot of room in there. It was very airy and very spacious, as if nobody was in a hurry to play. Monk is in rare form on this album, and for you to feature him, I think it's brilliant. You know, to hear him on his own albums, even to listen to Brilliant Corners earlier today, Monk does that hammering, and he is known when he plays. Now, he also gives a lot of space in most of his other albums, but in this particular case, to let the bass and the drums to be heard. And then Clark to play sparingly, if you will. There is a lot of room, and Monk is in rare form. So I love hearing Monk. It's part why I picked this album. You know, we did Brilliant Corners, and we've done the genius of Monk. And you see an album on Riverside with Clark Terry. I'm just going to leave it at that. Those two together, and of course, you're talking about Philly Joe and Sam Jones, who were very well known at the time, and they've been there, done that. And I'll go on to those guys here in a little bit. But you think about who they've all played with, and at this point in time, you're like, wow. Anyways, the clip that I wanted to hear is One Foot in the Gutter. And I'm going to start at the beginning because I think it's important. This is track number 2 on the album. It's important to me because there is I'll play it. Then we can talk about it.
Okay. This is why. And I'll cut it right there. They jump from 4/4, your standard blues, into a waltz halfway through that moment, only to come right back to the 4/4 blues. Just flawlessly and beautifully.
Can you not picture Thelonious's feet just going crazy? You know, he's a goofy dancer anyways, right? He'd get up and dance on stage anyways, never in time either. But I can just picture his feet just going to town under the piano during that mix up there between 4/4 and 3/4.
I could
time
too.
change.
Because he's banging off rhythm anyways, kind of shuffling them, doing that thing. And so you're almost wondering, was he just thinking it's time to shift?
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, who knows? It would be fun to watch. The
for sure.
interesting part is, and I was going to say this, Philly Joe had just come off a 3-year stint with Miles Davis to record this album in 1958 on Riverside. It's... Yeah. Who is sitting on this album? Really. It's just phenomenal. So,
Well, and you got an all-star cast in the first place. And Clark's just I hate to say lucky enough, but honored enough to put his name on the album as lead on the album. It could have been a Philly Joe Jones album for all I care.
oh, yeah.
You know?
It could have been.
But I don't know. I'm just so excited this week to have Clark back in my ears.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we both picked Clark Terry albums, or Clark Terry songs.
Written tunes, yep.
Written tunes, compositions. There is one Monk composition, Let's Cool One, was on there. So there's a lot of other history into this particular album that I could go on for days. Y'all do some research on the album. One of the things that stood out to me was who was Sarah Casey, who had written one of the tunes on. I ended up down a rabbit hole of her. And then I wanted to find out how many other times did Monk and Clark play together. And I can only find at this time, in a week's search, Bimsha Swing. And that was on Brilliant Corners, an album that we have already covered on the channel from 1957 on Riverside. And Thelonious introduced so many brilliant musicians to Riverside. That Riverside label is something that we got caught up looking at Blue Note and ECM, but Riverside had some staples. Johnny Griffin, Sonny Rollins, and of course Clark Terry for a long time. So, ooh.
I like Dad's verb of how they space it and how everyone has the ability to shine when they need to and never overpower. That's a great way to phrase that. And I was looking for the term to use all week long because that, it was going in my head. Wow, this is just an open album. How easy it is to listen to because no one is overpowering. You don't have John McLaughlin on the electric guitar just overpowering every other musician on the track, or name another one that you can. But it's I just love the way that they're all in the pocket together.
Yep.
It's a train and they're all getting there at the same time. No one's rushing to get to the next station. So yeah. what an amazing album. And I mean it. We could have picked any clip and just highlighted it. My backup, just in case my original one fell through, was song number 3, Trust in Me, because it's a beautiful ballad. And Clark, is as technically proficient and as well played as he is, and people think, oh yeah, the fast stuff is the hard stuff. No. The fast stuff sometimes is the easy stuff because you can flub over some notes and and miss a few things or miss a few rhythms, and no one's really missing it. But on a ballad tune, when it's you and the piano player and the bass player and the drummer, you can't miss on a ballad.
No.
And he's just so beautiful. Just I'm just oof. What do you say we get into the slideshow? That way we can further our discussion on CT. You ready? All right. Just like I've said for more than 100 weeks now, whatever you do it to jazz. You're going to hear in our week in music coming up in just a little bit. That's pretty much what we do, whether it's Christmas or Valentine's Day. So the album that we're talking about tonight is In Orbit by Clark Terry. I put a picture of the cover of the artwork. It's cool artwork. It really is. It's a cool picture. It's a little deceiving at first because all I really see, my eyes are just drawn to the building just automatically, following that clean line up to the top of the to the building. But and then you look down and you see them too getting their picture taken at the base of the building. It's red, white, and blue. So go USA, right? Yep. What else? What else can you say about it, Drew?
It's just one of those things where I don't know what the building is, but I can just about guess where he was playing and where he wanted to be playing, and that would have been somewhere running around New York in 1958.
Okay.
Prior to the Tonight Show gig, but I love it. Just very simple. I think there could have been a lot of other things, but Riverside has some unique takes on their album covers. I did look at that.
Well, with its title of In Orbit, you'd think to give it a space theme or something. Maybe that's at the base of a NASA building or something.
Maybe it is. I never did look.
Who knows?
Never looked.
Yeah. All right. My brief bio of Clark. I put here the discography was just too numerous to count. When you look at his discog and who his own albums and plus who he's played with, you'd have just about a lifetime of music to listen to if you just stuck with Clark Terry. So, that was a big thing for us in the
Ron
top 100
Carter.
countdown.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, like Ron Carter, you'd have a whole lifetime of music of just listening to him and who he played with, and the same with CT. So I didn't want to count, so I got lazy and I just said too numerous to count because that's really what it is. I put here on his bio that I think he may be the hardest working trumpet player that ever lived. This will spark a conversation, but Drew and I both read his autobiography book. And I gained so much appreciation for the life of a musician when I read his book. And some of the things that stuck out to me, I'll cover them in just a minute, but that's why I put this on this brief bio. The reason I think he's the hardest working trumpet player ever. He kept calendars of days and months just so he knew where he had to be and what time he had to be there, so he didn't miss anything. And his calendar was always full. And I'm talking from 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. He'd have stuff on his calendar. That's what I remember from the book.
Yeah.
And just he, because it's important to me not to miss appointments and to be on time. And if you're on time, you're late. And if you're 5 minutes to 10 minutes early, you're on time.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the way he lived too. Scheduling something at 12:30 and then happened to be somewhere at 1 o'clock, you knew you had 20 minutes to get your 12:30 thing done so you could be at your 12 o'clock on time.
Even in the documentary, you hear him say, "What time is it?" And Justin, the piano player, would say, "It's 1:35 after midnight." And I kept thinking, why does he always refer to time that way? But if you're Clark Terry and you've been playing till 4 a.m., time is irrelevant. It's afternoon or it's after midnight, one or the other.
Midnight, yeah.
And he scheduled his 90 years just like that. So, yeah,
that's the reason.
Dude.
Yeah, he's a hardworking dude, and that's the reason I put that in the bio. And if you want to argue with me, that's fine. I'll take your criticisms in the comment section below.
But here's the deal: when Quincy Jones says it's my idol, when Miles Davis says it's my idol, when Wynton Marsalis says it's my idol, and Wynton says, I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something to be said about that man being the hardest working trumpet player ever.
Coming out of the military band, I had a choice to make. I could have continued to try and make a living as a musician. I could have.
Yeah.
I knew I probably could have made, the Fort Wayne Philharmonic if I'd have practiced and gotten really good at that kind of music. But jazz in Fort Wayne is not. There's never been a huge jazz scene here, so I didn't know I can't imagine that lifestyle though for 80 years. Living, working that hard.
Career, going at it nonstop, and that was his career. I don't think that takes into consideration the 5 or 6 years that I'm going to talk about here when he was playing gigs in St. Louis as a kid.
Yeah,
even before he joined the
All right. So I'll finish my bio here. Like Drew said earlier, In Orbit is the first album that he recorded on the flugelhorn. This is a big one for me, and it stuck out to me again in the autobiography. But he was the first African American in the Tonight Show band as a regular. As a regular is the important feature there. He was not a special guest. They had other African Americans on the show as special guest musicians, but for Clark, he was the first regular African American in the Tonight Show band, which is tip of the spear, baby.
Yeah.
Tip of the spear.
Yep.
So kudos to Clark. My last little nugget there on the brief bio, he has won over 250 awards, honors, and medals. So it just goes to show how hardworking he was, how talented he was, and just how much he loved. I truly believe he loved what he did. So.
Oh yeah. And in those awards, I just read this before we got online. He's actually listed as a knight in Germany. He's won the NEA Jazz Master Award 2010, the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that he's a knight in Germany. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's random, but I like it. I'll take it.
So now we need AI to generate the Knights of the Round Table. And you'd have Clark Terry there. You'd have Miles sitting there, of course.
Yep.
You'd have Thelonious sitting there, and Coltrane and Bix. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Knights of the Round Table. That's great. Oh, that's great.
Man.
All right. So I did go ahead and put a quote by Clark in the slideshow. There was a lot of quotes that I had to choose from, and I picked this one. You can't do it the easy way. You have to do it the right way. And it's just such a fitting quote. The documentary, I loved it. The autobiography, I loved it. Listening to the music, I loved it. And you can tell that he had that kind of
Yep.
do it right the first time. So I don't have time to go back and do it again. If you don't have time to do it right the first time, when are you going to find time to go back and do it again? And it's just such a beautiful quote. The other one that I almost put on there is, I'm too old to pimp. I'm too young to die. So I think I'll just continue to play music. I almost put that one in the slide.
That would have been
but
cool.
I didn't.
That is too cool. He's got, it's funny because when I pulled up some quotes, I thought, if Matt's got one, it's going to be a great one. I know it is. But I looked at it and I said, remember, it's good to be hip, but don't be too hip, because then you're an ass. Or too hip. How does he say that? Too hips make an ass.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But the one thing that it stuck with you and I both. Imitate, assimilate, and innovate. We hear that about Clark, and we started this with the daddle diddle doodle doodle daddle diddle doodle tongue that Clark was infamous for. It's such a, beyond being a brilliant musician, 900 plus albums over 70 years, he was a brilliant educator. And I'll talk about that here in just a little bit as well. So, actually, it's now.
Yeah, it's now.
I put together a random timeline. I'm going to bring that up on screen now. And Matt, I called you last minute, told you I was going to add this. And I understand your struggle week after week. How do you find the main points that you could start dissecting the whole life of? But obviously born 1920 in St. Louis, Missouri, where at 14 he started to play some of the St. Louis area clubs and joints. In 1930, as a 10-year-old boy, he heard Duke Ellington, and he went home and made a trumpet out of scrap yard material. It actually showed somewhere that his first instrument, and this is an important factor that I didn't get on the slideshow, was a valve trombone, which makes a lot of sense going forward, that the flugelhorn sound is what he madly fell in love with. 30s to 40s, played in local bands. 42 to 45, he's in the Navy band. I want you all to go look at his time in the Navy band and the impact that he had as a bandsman. 48 to 51, Count Basie band. 51 to 59, he was in the Duke Ellington band. That's a huge deal to me, and there was quoted that it was good.
Wait. Did you say he was in the Count Basie band?
Hey, man, Dad's not here, so I'm going to tell you, go fly a kite. I don't want to hear that crap. Did you guys hear the Count Basie band?
I think I heard the Count Basie band one time here in town.
I think they were just here in town. I did not get to see them. They are proud to be touring, that's for sure. Count Basie was college, but Duke Ellington was graduate school. And the story of moving from Basie to Ellington was phenomenal. So go read the Clark Terry autobiography.
I'm just going to wait. Before you go, I just want to highlight it because he was so torn up by leaving Count Basie that he actually called in sick. He called Count and said, "Man, I can't make the last few gigs. I'm just sick. I can't make it, guy." He did not want to quit Count Basie. He wanted to move to Duke, but he did not want to quit Count Basie Orchestra. What a struggle he had. I mean, he's hurting somebody's feelings, but he's doing something to better himself.
And I vaguely remember in the autobiography that Basie says, "Why would my feelings be hurt? Man, if you've got a chance to go play with Duke, go play with Duke." And that's mentorship.
Yes.
That's real leadership. And so it takes me to this. In 1960, he leaves Duke Ellington to go play with Quincy Jones' big band. The leadership and mentorship that goes back to Clark Terry. When did he work? When did he sleep? When this scrawny little boy is knocking on your hotel room door to say, "Will you teach me how to play trumpet?" Well, kid, it's 6 a.m. I just got home from work, and you've got school in an hour. And Quincy says, I'll make it work. Will you? And the history and the story behind that. And then here it is 20-some years later that Quincy's knocking on the door and says, hey, dude, would you come play in my band? And he leaves Ellington to go play with Quincy Jones. Holy cow. That to me says a lot about leadership and mentorship as far back as 1960. Then in 62 through 72, as Matt mentioned, Tonight Show Band. As a regular member, as an African American, holy cow, some history behind that one too. Then in 1970 to 1990, he focuses primarily on recording and becoming a band leader and an educator. February 21st, 2015, he passed away. But I didn't end the line there because the legacy continues still today. When you think about all the mentorship that he had, all of the students that he taught at the colleges that he taught at, Justin Kaufman, who's part of the documentary, has gone on to record many things. But what I find most interesting is that leadership and mentorship going full circle from Quincy wanting to learn the trumpet to the end of the documentary that it's later years for Clark. And he says, Quincy, Q, I want you to meet this kid. He's a brilliant piano player. And shortly after, Q says, hey, let's do some recording. Come and meet me. I'll get you to play. So now Quincy picks up right where Clark had left off with this piano player. And how many years later? We're talking 2015 from back in 2050. So mentorship, leadership, Clark's legacy will continue, and we'll continue to laugh and learn daddle diddle diddle dodle doodle. and I think now I did find the clip, a pretty decent clip where he's teaching somebody the doodle tongue. I want to drop that in right now. It's about 45 seconds long.
Drop it.
Approach to playing that we used, which was a doodle system. You know, we didn't tongue out ta 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 ta. We say doodle doodle. That's how I developed the doodle system. They used the vowel. D-O-O-D-L-E was the word doodle. But the D-L-E, the second set of the syllable, had to be ghosted. Deedle, deedle. And it's so difficult to get some students to say deedle without saying deedle. Yeah. They always want to reiterate the second syllable. Deedle, deedle, daddle, doodle, doodle. Well, if you play deedle, doodle, daddle, doodle, deedle, 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 it's very much against, it's anti-swinging.
Is it anti-swinging, Clark?
Yeah, it's anti-swinging.
I
always talk about.
Thanks for letting me share that. It's part of his legacy as an instructor, the doodle tongue.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because we're not making fun of him when we do it. We do it. No. We've done it since we watched the clip, and yeah, it is actually helpful in my voice and in my tongue and everything else. Daddle, deedle, diddle, dodle, doodle. It's the A-E-I-O-U, and he used it so well in jazz. I remember in the documentary. No, you're playing daddle, 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 deedle, and you got to do daddle, deedle, 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 doodle. And the kid would pick it up and oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, man.
The slight difference matters. Going back to your quote, there's the easy way, or you can do it the right way. Do it the right way, and your tone, your ability to play, the way in which you project your sound is going to change and grow. Do it the right way. Take the time and do it the right way. It's interesting how many of these jazz masters are still teaching lessons today. Here it is, 2026. He passed in 2015, and people are still learning from the lessons that he has put out, from the quotes that he's put out, from his work ethic. Takoya said it, every day be grinding. Roy said it, every day be chasing it. And here it goes from the quotes of one of the jazz masters, one of the jazz giants.
Masters. Yep. Okay, let me finish this final slide, and we'll kind of wrap up with the slideshow. So this or that for this week is week 7 I picked two of the newer albums that we highlighted back in the top 100 journey. But this or that for this week, you got Emma Roberts. The album is Chroma, or the Ezra Collective, Dance, No One's Watching. So, Drew, tell me, which one would you pick?
Ravitch. I'm gonna go with Emma Ravitch.
Okay. Okay.
Her Chroma album brings much delight and much joy to me. Ezra Collective, though, you just want to go dance. There's so much swinging great music, but I love her music. I love her tone on the sax. Emma Ravitch all day long.
Okay. All right. I have to disagree with you. I'm going Dance, No One's Watching, just because when Dad introduced us to the album, I fearfully put it in my ears, and I was thankful that he even brought it to my attention.
Yep.
You know, because it's a banging album. It's so much fun. It makes you feel like you're right in the club watching, even though you're just listening. So I'm picking Dance, No One's Watching by Ezra Club. But we want to hear which one you'd pick. So if you need to listen to them both before you vote, please go ahead and do that. Otherwise, just pick which artwork cover you like. I don't care. I just want to see votes. So come to the website, theunconnoisseur.com, and click on the this or that link for week number 7. Finally, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and really just kind of hanging out with us this evening as we talk about Clark Terry. You can find all the information that we use at theunconnoisseur.com. You can find the this or that, a few timeline slides of the jazz history that we've got up there, and some of our bios, Drew's and mine bio, that need updating after 100 weeks of listening to jazz. We do also have a radio station called WTUR, and you can get to the radio station in any browser or on your phone, WTUR.org. I just uploaded a whole bunch of new music there today, and so I'm changing the playlist around a little bit. You'll hear some new music coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going back to the not Kurt Elling, I'm sorry. We're going back to the book list that we're using by Nate Shinnon. As soon as Dad comes back, we're kind of, Drew, you and I were freestyling for a few weeks while Dad's recovering, and as soon as Dad comes back, get back to that Nate Shinnon list, and we'll hear some of that music that he's got for us in his list. We do have a merchandise website you can find at theunconnoisseur.com as well, and of course, voting for this or that. So that does it for me for the slideshow. Thanks so much for letting me do that and for hanging out. If you find our content useful, please click the like button, click the subscribe button, hit that bell so you're notified
Ding.
when our new episodes come out.
Absolutely.
That's my commercial.
Well, I want to kick us back into the album, our real thoughts and what's going on. And I'm going to start. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay.
I'm going to start because, yes, I love Thelonious Monk and Clark Terry, hands down. Absolutely. The great part about it to me was seeing Sam Jones and Philly Joe Jones, who were names that we've learned about throughout our journey of the top 100. We saw Sam on Abbey Lincoln, Abbey is Blue. We saw him obviously on this album in top and bottom brass with Clark Terry. He was also on one of Matt's most favorite albums in the whole wide world, Something Else by Cannonball Adderley. Bag Meets West, all of these great things. Of course, we saw Philly Joe Jones on 6 Bill Evans albums. Says a lot about his ability to play the drums. 3 Freddie Hubbard albums. No Stolen Moments wasn't in it. But if you look at him on Abbey is Blue, he was also 2, 4, 5, 7, and 9 on those tracks, the same as Sam Jones. He was with Serenade to a Bus Seat from Clark Terry, and this is what sold it for me. When it comes to Philly Joe Jones, he was on the Memorial album with Clifford Brown. So, to me, that's a win. The biggest thing that I found with Clark Terry this week that I hadn't seen before, Roy Eldridge was listed as one of his influences. Charlie Shavers, one of his influences. Fate Marabelle and Lester Young. And Fate Marabelle was the Steamboat big band leader. And
big band leader, yep.
And, of course, then the last one on that list was, and yes, Louis Armstrong. And so you take that Clark Terry St. Louis style, blend it with these guys of that bop era, Of course, Fate Maribel, the Steamboat, and the Shuffle, which would have been right there on the river in St. Louis. So all of these things combined. And then you mix it all in with the Thelonious Monk. What a blend of we're going somewhere. And we went to orbit with this. I love the album. I love the music. I love the space that Dad had mentioned about it. And I really think it would have been cool just to get some notes from him or his track. I think he struggled on which track to play.
Yeah.
To me, this was just a banging historical album. It brought all of the best pieces together, which I absolutely love. So, you want me to rate it?
Okay.
Or do you want to talk more about it?
No, go ahead. Tell me what you rated it.
I'm giving it a 10.
Okay. Okay. Well, much like you, I enjoyed the album several dozen times this week. I mean, I told you earlier before we started recording that I squirreled a little bit. I found it hard, but every time I came back to Clark Terry, I was comforted. I was in the pocket. I was happy I was listening to him. You know, sometimes I'm listening to music and I think to myself, why am I listening to this when I could be listening to that or something else? You know, but never when I'm listening to Clark Terry did I feel that way this week. I had other albums in my ear besides In Orbit by Clark, and I'll go over that in my week in music coming up in just a minute. The only I don't know. Maybe there was too much space in the album for me. I couldn't go to a full 10. And I feel guilty because I love Clark. I love what he stands for. I love what he's done in his career and in his life. But we're not rating his life. We're not rating him. We're rating In Orbit.
Yep.
So for me this week, it's just a 9.
Okay. I wasn't sure where you're going to land. You know, you pick an album
Okay.
and you hope that people really do enjoy it as much as you do. I could have seen you going a little bit lower. It's a 1958 album. We're starting to move into what's new and everything else. that
Okay,
shakes.
except no. That's the golden years of jazz, 58 and 59. Kendra leaned over to me Saturday. I'll get to that in a minute, but because I was telling her about a song we were listening to, she said, that's from 1958. That's your golden year right there. And I said,
Yes.
you're listening. You've been paying attention. That's awesome.
Yep.
So, and again, I felt bad with only a 9, but we're not rating Clark. We're rating In Orbit.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Absolutely. Well, since
beautiful
you warmed
album.
up, tell me what
Okay.
your week in music has been like.
Okay. Oh, well, I think I mentioned it last week or maybe the week before, but this is the time when the high schools in our area have their jazz fests.
Yes.
So it's Saturday, Valentine's Day, and I'm a knucklehead. I don't have anything planned except I had mentioned earlier in the week that it's Snyder Jazz Fest, and I'd like to go see 3 of the bands and maybe stay for I didn't know who the main performer, the main professional coming in to give the clinics and stuff to the kids. So I didn't know him. So I'm like, you know what, even if we just stay for these 3 big bands and then leave, I'll be happy. So we paid to get in. We saw the Northside band. We saw the Homestead band, and then we saw, Northrop was first, then Homestead, then Northside. That was the 3 high school bands that I wanted to see. Took a short break, and then Wind Machine came out from Snyder, and they laid it down. They were really, really good. Then Three Rivers Big Band came out. They were the kind of the headliner big band, because the professional that they hired, his name was Matt Pivick. He's a saxophone instructor at Butler, but he's a saxophone instructor at Butler who has also played with Maria Schneider. So I did not get a chance to meet or talk to Matt, but one of the judges that was at the school all day, I met last year at the Snyder Jazz Fest, and I was so impressed and excited to meet him. It was Mark Buselli from the Buselli Waller Jazz Orchestra.
Yes.
Last year, I bum rushed him. I just geeked out and just fanboyed out on him for the 5 minutes that he allowed me to talk to him, and he was ready to go last year. You know, the storm was coming. I remember it vividly. But this year,
this story.
I calmly walked up to him this year. He was sitting at a judge's table, and we were in between bands. I knew he only had a few minutes, but he was done judging and writing. So I walked up and I sat down next to him, and I said, "Thank you so much for being here. You know, I met you last year. I kind of geeked out and fanboyed out." So I just had a nice conversation with him. Their band from Ball State just got back from Chile. They took the Ball State big band to Chile as a recruiting tool. He told me they recruited 2 Chilean high school students to come to Ball State to play in the big band.
Wow.
So I thought that was really, really cool.
Wow.
I look forward, hopefully maybe he'll come back next year, but I have his email address. I'd like to email him just to say thanks for being there anyway.
yeah.
So Valentine's Day, we did stay for the Three Rivers Big Band. We did not stay for the awards, but then we just went out and got dinner and came home and watched a movie, and it was a great Valentine's Day for me. Anyways, other than that, a lot of Clark Terry in my ear. That's pretty much it. Besides the radio channel, when I couldn't think of something to listen to from Clark, I was just checking out the radio station. So it was a great week in music for me. Seeing live jazz music is always so much fun. Seeing the high school kids, you know, I'll tell you what, I'll brag a couple of things. Snyder has an amazing bass player. Braxton is his name. And Braxton went to Memorial Park Middle School.
Okay.
And that was the same time he was in 8th grade. That was the same time that the Count Basie Orchestra came to Fort Wayne. And Braxton actually got up and played the bass on a tune with the Count Basie Orchestra. Okay. As an 8th grader, you're playing with the Count Basie Orchestra, and he looked comfortable and natural. He didn't look stiff and tense, and he did everything right. The bass player for the Three Rivers Big Band couldn't be there Saturday, and so Braxton played 4 tunes with the Three Rivers Big Band. And I'm telling you what, he just laid it down.
Nice.
He's going to be the next Ron Carter. He will be. Mark my words. Look for Braxton. He will be the next Ron Carter when he's done with college.
Awesome.
I kid you not. The kid is amazing. He's really, really good. I loved the Homestead Band. Even they play at just a different level than any other band in town. They're very, very probably very close to collegiate level band. The way that they're tight. And they have a lot of fun, and that's what I enjoyed. They had fun on stage. You know, the band director's not the stuffy guy who doesn't let him move around. And the drum solo, everyone in the band is cheering for the drum solo and waving music at him, and you know, they're just having fun. And that's what jazz should be, right?
Yep.
And sometimes when we think of jazz performances, we think of just standing up on stage and playing the music. No, those cats were moving around stage. Watching the Roy Hargrove documentary last week for Roy's episodes. He didn't stand still much. He danced around. Think of all the times that we've seen Miles on stage. He's not standing still.
No.
You know, he's the Garth Brooks of jazz music. He's one side of the stage to the other and up and down. And so I don't know. That's my week. I went on real long with my week in music. I apologize for that. I just had a great week in music. So Tell me about you.
That is awesome.
Tell me about you.
My week was pretty straight ahead. You know, we've had a lot of fun things going on. Today is obviously President's Day, and we just passed 2 days ago Valentine's Day. For me, my week in music bounced just like from everything. Of course, I'm trying to go through all of Clark Terry stuff. So this week just really helped me decipher. I've found a couple of albums that they were tied together, found a couple of miscellaneous things. But at the end of every album, a new record popped up of some sort. This week, I found Dulvin Lamar, Organ Trio. This was live at KEXP. I think I texted y'all this. It says that I did.
Yes. Yes.
What a Hammond B3 organ. It's a trio. And halfway through the album, I was like, wait a minute, it's a trio. Where's the bass line? Well, it's a Hammond B3 organ. He's running the bass line. So as I continued onward, Clark Terry and Max Roach, the album Friendship. I thought, holy crap, what a fun album to listen to. And then, of course, later this weekend, I'm thinking, you know what? I never listened to Clark Terry and Quincy Jones. I wanted to hear what that big band sounded like. Showing big band.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much been my week in music. Where this weekend we were supposed to have a race in Houston for the mountain bike students, but that was canceled due to some rain that came through. So they canceled it, not postponed it. So we're not going to make up that date anytime soon. So practice starts again. That's really wraps up my week. Riding,
Wow.
practicing, trying to stay on that schedule that I've got. It's harder than I expect because life changes.
Yes.
But it's all right. Last night, I did solo on a few things that I've never soloed on, and I feel more confident about my playing just knowing that I'm 3 weeks into a set schedule of daily practice. Do it the right way. Practice.
Do it the right way.
Scales, long tones, slurs, scales, long tones, slurs, and repeat. So, but that's been pretty much it. That is it.
Good. Have you had much of a chance to watch any of the Olympics at all?
We've been watching them in the evenings, which of course that changes. Like tonight, I'm about 10 minutes to bail out to go pick up my daughter from tennis practice. So it's just this constant. We get home, we'll watch. Last night we watched the rerun of the freestyle men's skating. We had watched the skeleton. We had watched everything that we possibly can when we have an hour to watch TV. So,
well, I'm really concentrating on the women's hockey team. They are amazing this year. If they don't win gold, I'll be very, very, very surprised. But that gold medal game is Thursday, so I'm looking forward to that. The men's hockey team is going to come down to Canada versus USA. My son, the hockey player, thinks Canada is going to take it. I'm rooting, of course, for the USA. But
USA.
Yeah, he's got the hockey knowledge though, and those players that he sees and the way that they play, he's got it figured out. Canada's going to win, but I'm still rooting anyways. So,
well,
okay,
we wish. Now you're going to do two things back to back here. You're going to shake us up pretty deep.
Shake us up. All right, so I'm going to do what's new.
What's new?
All right, so I'm going to do what's new. This week I got to pick an album of the what's new, and next week you'll hear a what's new from Drew. But this week I found Cortex and Hedvig Molstad. The name of the album is Did We Really? So Cortex and Hedvig Molstad, I kind of had the floating points with Pharoah Sanders in mind when I saw the and sign. It's not really that. It's completely different. It's going to push our limits of jazz and what we think jazz is. But I really enjoyed listening to what's new this week. It was released in December of 2025. Hedvig is the guitarist on the album. I like to highlight, what instrument he plays. So I don't know. Give it a listen. Tell us what you think. Cortex and Hedvig Molstad. Did We Really? From 2025. So that's what's new. Now I get to do what's next.
Yeah.
Next week, what I want to listen to and who I want to cover. I get to pick it again this week since Dad's, of course, not with us and we're freestyling. I get to pick what's next. Next week, Dave Holland Quintet, Not for Nothing. This was a release in 2001. And Dave got no love on the top 100 or Nate's list. So I felt confident in picking something from Dave Holland. This again is going to push us a little bit. I picked it because it's more on the avant-garde side. It's not quiet and easy to listen to. It's going to push us a little bit, and it's going to be interesting to see how you enjoy it and how we rate it. Basically, we've heard Dave Holland before. Don't get me wrong.
A lot.
Yeah. A lot. Yeah. With Miles Davis, with Kenny Burrell, with Anthony Braxton, with he was on. Yeah. And the list goes on and on and on. Yeah. So anyways, I just wanted to highlight, Kenny Wheeler, the new High album that was the one I really wanted to highlight. But anyways, what's next?
Hey, I'll talk
Dave
Kenny
Holland.
Wheeler, baby.
I know you will. From 2001, the label is ECM, Dave Holland Quintet, Not for Nothing. Put that in your ears. and come back for our discussion
I just
next
put it
week
in my
on Dave
phone because,
Holland.
as I said, I've got to go pick up my daughter soon. So I got 30 minutes of
all right.
uninterrupted music. I'm glad to
Well,
see
I think
this.
you're going to enjoy it. I previewed the album just so it wasn't something too crazy, and I really, really kind of enjoyed what I listened to. I can't
Yeah.
wait to really dig in and listen to it and read and discover everything about Dave Holland, because not that he's one of those names that we glossed over, but he's kind of one of those names that we glossed over. Oh, he played with. Oh, and I heard him on this. And oh, I heard him on. But do we really know who he is? Do we really know? Can we pick it out if we heard
Yeah.
it on the radio? You know what I mean? So
That's what I appreciate
that's my
about
goal.
this randomness of things. All the names that we've seen, now we get to call them out and look at them, and I appreciate this. But it's also the same with all the new albums as we get back into our list.
Nate,
Oh, wait a minute.
Chinnon list.
Nate
Yep.
Chinnon list. Oh, wait, they played with. Oh, wait, they played with. And you start looking at this going, now we're in the current 2000s. So this one still lands there in the 01.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. And it's ECM.
Good.
I mean, come
It's
on.
ECM. Yeah. Well, and I hate to fanboy out on ECM, but if I had to choose a label to pick from, it's going to be ECM.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
and maybe next time it's my pick, I'll pick a Metheny album, but I can't promise that.
I'll hold my breath. You got 2 weeks. Maybe I won't hold my breath. I've been waiting to turn the page and see, oh, he's picking Metheny. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for it.
All right.
Oh,
Well, hey, thanks again for joining us this evening and sticking around this far. Again, like the episode, subscribe to our channel, and make sure you ring that bell so that you get
Ding.
notified when our new episodes come out.
absolutely.
Say goodbye, Drew. Say goodbye, Drew.
Bye, Drew. You kids have a good one. Love you. Bye.
Bye.